My name is DM Fitzgerald. I'm the creator of the Mper Adventure. Please like and subscribe. That determines if we make more of them. Now, here is the show. When last we left our intrepid adventurers, the characters were traveling from Stephen's Hold to southern Desirata. They had just completed a scouting mission, and they were heading back with an offer of alliance from Stephen's Hold. Keberdane is finally getting to visit places he has only read about before, and he's keeping an eye on a Kai who has been dubbed the Weapon by several ancient scriptures. They arrive at the northern edge of the inland sea. The fortress of Lament is there. It's cut from a shard of living rock. At its base is the outlet of the Sylvian Canal that runs directly from northern Desirata itself. Keberdane remarks that there are two villages, one for humans and the other is primarily populated by a race known as Manthuthians, a chalk-white skinned race who have jet black hair. They're an old race. They're known for their lack of males and a low birth rate. The party decides that since there are 3 human males in the party and Manthuthian females like to kidnap human males, it would be safer to get a room in the human settlement on the other side of the canal, even though it's a little bit longer of a walk. They arrive to find that the only bar that has acceptable lodgings is a bar called the Wizard and the Dragon. When they enter, they see a few Manthuthian employees that give the males an appraising eye. Marcus mutters that he doesn't have time for this and goes to the barkeep and gets a couple of rooms immediately. The party gets 2 rooms and then decide to see what's going on down in the common area. Most of the common area is full of sellswords. Scala decides to go over and talk to several of the groups. She figures that she can find out information by acting like a woman of loose morals. She comes back after a while, having learned nothing of importance. She tells the party that many of the men offered her money to visit the back room with them. Estralia rolls her eyes and mentions that Scala perhaps should act more like a responsible wizard and less like a common Chia. Scala smiles at the girl and tends to her drink. One of the Manthuthian serving women accidentally spills a drink on Scala. The wizard is upset until Keberdane whispers that he's noticed that that particular serving woman has been taking men into the storeroom most of the time they've been there. The server probably didn't take too kindly to Scala cutting in on her hunting ground. They decide at that point to call it a night. The next day the party goes to the fortress. The characters were there 4 or 5 months ago when they helped reestablish the lady back on the throne. They're counting on her to help them hire a ship to take them across the inland sea to the continent of Sadakadish, where the encampment of the southern Desiratans are in a place called Sylvias Rest. When they get to the front gate, they are told that the mother of the house was very busy, but they could speak with her son, Madrigar. Madrigar is a Manthuthian male mage of their acquaintance. They agree that this would probably be just as good. They are brought into the audience room and Madrigar Karan Dith introduces himself. He is part of the same guild as Keberdane, so it's sort of a reunion for those two. Marcus bows. Scala gives her magical pedigree, her name and the name of her master. Seraph goes to shake hands, but the Manthuthian doesn't seem to understand what the handshake means, and the handshake falls flat. Akai nods to the mage, and when Australia is presented to him, the mage bows to her and mentions that they are distant cousins. When talking with Madrigar, the party finds out that patrols have reported increased sheesh activity in the area. Madrigar says that the information that they hold should be taken directly to Sylvias Rest. He tells them that he will make arrangements for them to leave on the next boat across the inland sea, which will be leaving in 2 days. After a while, the characters are shown to rooms. Akai and Seraph decide instead to head back into town. Madrigar invites Keberdane into his private study. Keberdane is excited to be invited to Madrigar's library. Even though they are brother mages, it's rare for a mage to invite another mage into their sanctum. Madrigar asks about their journey, and Keberdane tells them the tale of what happened in the village of Gaul and what happened in Stephen's Hold. Madrigar brings up the wizardress Scala, and that Keberdane will need to watch her because he knows she has touched one of the dragon rings. Madrigar says that, unfortunately, she is doomed to become a thrall to it and its mistress Distaria. Keberdane says that Scala's will is strong, and if Distaria is destroyed, there will be time to get her free of the ring. He can tell that Madrigar doesn't believe him, but the other mage says nothing. Next, Keberdane talks of Seraph, who has also touched one of the dragon rings and is already suffering bouts of madness because of it. He gets no comment from Madrigar on that. Keberdane realizes what's going on. The conversation about the others is nothing to Madrigar. The real discussion is about Akai. Madrigar listens to Keberdane's story about what has happened to Akai. Madrigar, when he speaks about her, only calls her the weapon. Keberdane says that Akai is the weapon created by the Manthuthians 1,000 years ago to fight the lesser lords of the starry sky, but it came at a terrible cost. Madrigar coolly says that the cost is only terrible if you don't know the price to be paid if it's not used. Madrigar tells his brother mage that he may need to bring her to the guild, something she may not want to do. He mentions that Keberdane may have to use force. Meanwhile, Akai finds her way to the local Marsite temple. It's a small affair situated on the water's edge. Akai was hoping to find a priestess of the old version of the Marsite religion, but is told that they are of the new branch, which aligns itself with Chaldasea. Akai goes away disappointed. Back at the inn, Seraph was approached by the serving woman who spilled wine on Scala. She asks him if he wants to go into the storeroom and have a good time. Seraph pays a gold, a gross overpayment of her normal price, but he does have a good time in the storeroom with her. Marcus enters the inn to pick up his things and sees an old friend at the bar. It's a paladin from another religion who goes by the name of Henry. Henry remarks that he barely recognizes Marcus, since the last time he saw him, Marcus was just a paladin initiate. Marcus brings him up to date on what's going on, and Henry takes the other man's hand and says that his god would see the overthrow of the queen as a righteous cause. He offers his hand and his sword in their quest. Scala and Australia enter the inn, and Marcus introduces them to Henry. Australia acts coy at meeting the comely stranger. Seraph and the serving woman come out of the storeroom. Scala looks daggers at the woman. Then Seraph tells the party that the woman's name is Lissa, and she will be joining them. She says something in Manthuthian to Scala, But Scala is only wearing the body of a Mantuthian. She doesn't speak the language, so it's lost on her. They all head back to the fortress. Henry seems uncomfortable by the lewd remarks the female Mantuthian warriors make towards him. He says that last time he was here, he had a bad experience with Mantuthian warriors and stays near the center of the party. The rest of the day passes quickly. The night comes and goes without incident. The next day the party rests. Keberdane spends time in Madrigar's library and is joined by Scala. They discuss their host, and Keberdane tells her that Madrigar is an unusual Mantuthian in that he has learned wizardry instead of the natural bend his people have towards becoming sorcerers. Scala mentions that he is the only Mantuthian male she's ever seen. Estrella and Akai take long baths. Akai is trying to meditate in the Marsite fashion on the water, while Estrella continues to think out loud about Paladin Henry. Akai gives up attempting to meditate and goes and takes a nap. Paladin Marcus and Paladin Henry walk the edge of the town. They discuss how it would be to defend this area. They are of different minds on how to do it, but both agree that retreating back to the fortress would probably be a good plan. Marcus heads back to the fortress by himself, and Henry visits several of the outlying farms in search of a horse to buy. There are many people in uniforms looking to purchase horses. Henry is drawn to an official-looking woman in a uniform he doesn't quite recognize. She engages him in conversation, saying that a friend of hers saw him talking to Paladin Marcus. Henry says that he and Paladin Marcus are friends, and they're traveling together. She asks him if he will take a message to her old friend Marcus, telling him that she will see him tomorrow. Paladin Henry agrees. He asks her name. She says, "It's Van Cherie."